Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host Cole Shelton, episode 159. It was live ahead of UFC Atlantic City this weekend. But first up, we're actually joined by the women's bantamweight champion, Raquel Pennington. Just kind of looking back on her January win over Mayra Bueno Silva, and then obviously getting your thoughts on Kayla Harrison signing, that fight against Holly Holm, and kind of who's going to be your first title defense and when kind of her time frame for return. It was a really interesting chat with Raquel, who's on a nice winning streak and kind of laying out her ideal year. And some interesting stuff was she was very sick before that title fight. She didn't really know if she was even going to fight, so it was in more incredible forms, but really good chat with Raquel. And then we close things out talking to Andre Petroski to preview his fight against Jacob Malkoun. He's coming off that first round. Naga lost to Michelle Pereira. It's a fight he took on very short notice. He flew across the world to get it because he was out in Thailand working or training, and now he takes on Jacob Malkoun near his hometown. So he actually said he made his pro debut in Atlantic City, which is making this fight extra special. And he's really looking forward to this fight. He said he's been offered Malkoun a couple times, just never came to fruition for a couple of reasons, but he likes the style matchup. He thinks he's going to have a lot of success against him, and he knows a win here kind of gets him right back on track before that Michelle Pereira loss. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by the UFC bantamweight champion, Raquel Pennington. Raquel, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Has he been a couple months now since you won the belt, in Toronto? What is kind of the last 2 months been like for you since you become the champion?
It's been great, honestly. In Toronto, I got sick. So whatever I had going on, I had a sinus infection, double ear infection, and then I just had some sort of virus that just lingered for majority of February. We ended up taking a family vacation. During that time on family vacation, the baby and Tisha got sick. So the month of February was a little rough, but other than that, now Tisha started camp. We're home back into a routine, and I'm in the gym helping her train. I'm doing some rehab of my own. I'm playing mama. I get to hang out at home with the baby and stuff. So, and then besides that, I've been doing tons of media obligations and keeping busy.
Going into that fight against Mayra, were you surprised you were the underdog? Because I thought, I was surprised you were the underdog. I thought you were gonna win. Because I felt like you've done more in the division. I know Mayra had that one over Holly, but I just thought your resume was a lot better than hers. Were you surprised people were overlooking you going to that one?
No, I've been the underdog my entire career, so it's nothing new. I feel like I've been the dark horse in women's MMA for majority of it, but I just go out there and do what I need to do.
For you, how crazy has it been since that Nunes fight, your first title fight? I know after that one, a lot of people kind of wrote you off, and then especially after losing to GDR that next fight, and then kind of see the streak you've been on, become the champion. What has that past couple of years been like for you? Where you kind of redid your whole career almost?
Yeah, I was not having fun back then. I was having a lot of issues after the Miesha Tate fight. I went into that fight with a torn right shoulder and torn bicep. So I ended up having total reconstructive shoulder surgery, a bicep repair, wrist surgery, and then just trying to come back from that after an 18-month layoff. I developed a thyroid issue. It just felt like one thing after another. UFC calls, they offer the biggest profile fight of my career with the first world title fight. And, it wasn't the timing. We initially were scheduled to fight in December. In October, I ended up breaking my leg, barely avoided amputation. It was just one beating after another. So like I said, I wasn't having fun. And finally, after the Jermaine fight, I was trying to feel like myself. And it's crazy with the Jermaine fight because I cannot remember that fight to save my life. I don't remember anything about fight week. I was in such a bad place mentally, emotionally, physically. My health was out of control. I can remember bits and pieces of every single fight. I can remember my opponents across the octagon for me. I cannot picture her face to save my life. That's one of those fights that just, I don't even know. But after that, I took time for me. I kind of hit the reset button. I was in a really dark place, and it was just all right, this sport comes with the highest of highs and lowest of lows. And during that time, I felt low in every which way. I felt low as a person. I felt low as a athlete. It was just, there was a lot going on. So I took the time. I did the proper rehab. I got my body into, the place that I needed to be. I started really focusing on my health. And that's where it all started, So after that, here we are.
And then with that fight against Mayra, the first round, obviously, I think she won it. Then I thought you won every round after that. What do you think kind of changed from after the first round to those later rounds? You just kind of took over.
Well, like I said, I mean, I wasn't feeling well during that fight week. I put on a great poker face, and then going into the fight, the morning of the fight, I woke up and I had zero emotion. Like the only emotion I had was I felt like absolute shit. Like I felt like I had razor blades in the back of my throat. I already had a headache. I had a ton of pressure in my face. There was just a lot going on. And I told Tisha, she was like, "Good morning, happy fight day. Like, how are you feeling?" And when I tried to talk to her, she freaked out. And I was like, "Tisha, I don't know if I can fight." So when we, fast forward to the fight or whatever, while we were in the octagon, they're announcing us. And I told the coaches, I was talking to them, and I was like, "This is going to hurt." And they're like, "Listen, we don't care what this fight looks like. We need you for possibly 25 minutes. Drag her in deep waters if you have to. She's definitely going to break. We know that." And so, oh, there's the baby. And so, the first round started, and it was like I had a great camp. Like everything went perfect. And then as soon as that first round started, I just felt my muscle endurance just go down the drain. I was pretty much waking up, like it was just like I was getting my body going the best that I could in that first round. And so they were like, "Hey, like we really need you to like figure this out in between rounds." That was our conversation. So we figured it out, and I did what I need to. I'm super proud of myself for overcoming, some more obstacles and climbing another mountain and being able to accomplish the ultimate goal.
Did you even surprise yourself then with your cardio and like being able to go 5 rounds like that, just not feeling the best?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't surprise myself. I knew that like it's in me. It's also like a frame of mind. So it was kind of just shifting that gear. But I think my biggest concern was with the way my throat felt. Like it hurt to swallow. Like I felt like I had strep throat. So I was concerned as if, sometimes you're in a fight, you get cotton mouth, you have a mouth guard in, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just concerned of how like I was going to be able to breathe. My conditioning was already there.
Did you ever get close of pulling out then, or did you always know like you're just gonna have to go through it like it is a title fight? Like, do you think if it wasn't a title fight, you wouldn't have fought?
Yeah, it was. We brought my sports psychologist in that morning. My coaches were in there that morning. We went up, and sometimes there's that moment of sweating it out, and then other times like your body just truly needs. Your body just truly needs rest. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those situations that I wasn't too sure. Like, I took a big risk going in there. You can get injured. All kinds of stuff can happen. I took the chance of my second world title fight and absolutely losing. So yeah, it was definitely in my mind, but that's where you have to shift your mind. We're here for a reason. We grind for a reason. I knew if I had pulled from the fight, like they may have not pushed the fight back, or I may not ever get this opportunity again. So I had to dig into a place that I haven't had to dig into for a very, very long time.
And then since you become champion, like the divisions change a lot, especially with Kayla signing. Like, did that catch you by surprise like it did to kind of everyone else?
Not really. I expected Kayla to honestly sign a lot sooner. It was interesting how, just with UFC 300 and stuff, the announcement, but that's the part that makes for good business, But yeah, no, it didn't surprise me. I think the thing that did surprise me is the fact that she's fighting at 135. Just given, she's a bigger girl, and they sit there and I've seen interviews where she said that she's done trial cuts and everything. She can make the weight and stuff. But she's been competing at bigger divisions. And so it's like, okay, you might be able to make the weight, but how are you going to compete at it?
She obviously has a fight upcoming, but do you imagine like she wins that? Like they're just going to give her that immediate title shot? Or do you think it is going to be Juliana next?
So for me and my team, we're planning on Juliana. Juliana is the one that makes sense. It's a fight that I've been looking forward to since The Ultimate Fighter. Anyways, that was actually the fight that was supposed to be for the vacant title, but Juliana was still injured. So UFC called and they're like, we need to keep the division moving. So it's going to be you and Mayra Buena Silva. That I did not expect. So like I said, that's the fight I'm expecting. UFC tends to do whatever they want to do. So I wouldn't be surprised after the fight with Holly and Kayla, if Kayla's to win, that they do give that phone call as well. But I think just for me, like being the athlete, for me being the athlete that I've never been handed anything. I've
Mhm.
literally had to work from the ground up. And there's tons of women in this division who have been doing the same thing. They deserve the opportunity. And, I feel like there's those athletes that kind of get that fast track, and it's just not fair. So personally, like, I'm not opposed to fighting Kayla at all. But I just feel like there's so many other people who deserve the opportunity as well. But we'll see how it all plays out.
And I think making weight twice is like the hard thing. We've seen fighters drop down where the first time they do it, and it's the second time that the body kind of catches up, and then they miss weight, and then like you don't really want that to happen if it's a title fight too. So like, but obviously Tisha's fights have coming in May. So like, when do you think that kind of time frame for you is? 'Cause I know obviously the focus is on Tisha.
I'm excited for Tisha to make her comeback after 2 years off and having the baby and stuff. She's super motivated. I'm excited for her to experience being a mom, going into a fight camp, going into a fight. It's completely different. So I think for me, right after that, Alea's getting ready to turn 1. Her first birthday is June 1st. And so we want to be able to enjoy that. I'm doing some rehab on a few things. So, I mean, my time frame, I think August is like international. September, I think they're wanting to do the sphere card, and they pretty much have that mapped out. So I'm looking at October, November for my return.
And with Juliana, like, is it crazy that that fight hasn't happened? Because after Tough, like, especially everything that went on, like, I thought that would have been one they would have booked, like, almost right after the show aired.
You and me both. I think, Dana expected us to be in the finale together. But I mean, I won fight of the season against Jessamine Duke, and during that fight, I sustained some injuries. So I ended up losing in the semifinals, and it didn't play out that way. I figured throughout these years, I mean, it's been 11 years now.
Yeah.
So I figured it would have already happened. It's interesting how it hasn't happened, but it's kind of cool. There's a story behind it all. And here we are now, 11 years later, for the ultimate goal, the world title.
Well, Raquel, that's all I had for you, though. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, you bet. It was good talking to you.
All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Andre Petroski, who's back in action UFC Atlantic City. Andre, how's it going, man?
Doing well.
Uh, First thing is fighting Atlantic City. Like, how pumped were you when you found out you'd be on this card? Like, you obviously fought MSG, you fought Boston, close to home, but Atlantic City's kind of right there for you as well.
Yeah, I live about an hour from Atlantic City. So my first ever MMA fight, like ever, was in Atlantic City. So to be back there is like, it's an honor. It's awesome. And to be back there for the first event that the UFC has been since like 2018 or whatever it was. It's just a huge honor. Like, it's something that like a lot of people like won't be able to tell their kids they did. You know what I mean? Like I'll be able to tell my kids like, yo, I fought at Boardwalk Hall for the UFC. That's cool to me.
Before we get into this one, I want to touch on your last fight. Like, you obviously took it on short notice. Like, do you have any regrets of taking that, just how the way it played out, or do you still think, knowing the result, you still would have taken that on short notice? Because it was obviously a big opportunity fighting Michelle.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have regrets as far as taking the fight. I think that in life in general, like, shoot for the stars, end up on the moon type thing. I do have regrets as far as just like not keeping my weight in a striking distance outside of camp. You know what I mean? And I've always been the short notice guy. Like that was my third short notice fight, all three on less than 2 weeks notice. So like they know that I'm always the short notice guy, but I just never got that heavy before. And this time I was a little bit heavier than normal. I got to Vegas on Monday and I was like 209 and a half. So I had like a 23.5 pound weight cut to Friday. So that was a lot more than I've ever done before. So that was I mean, I'm not making excuses, but that with the fact that I was in Thailand, I was on the other side of the world, I had a 26 hours of flying to get to Vegas. It was just I wish I would have been a little bit more disciplined about keeping my weight low. so that I could have performed better.
And then with Jacob Malkoun, like, was this just who they kind of offered you then at this point?
It's a name that they've offered before, and I've said yes before. It's a match that does excite me. I continue to make the argument that I'm the best grappler in the middleweight division. Um, First was Maximov, and then Mearshart had the most wins or the most submissions in the division's history. But Malkoun has the at one point he had the highest takedown ratio of any fighter in the UFC.
Mhm.
I think it was like 7.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. So like those are the kind of matchups that excite me. Like I have a base in grappling. My striking has gotten a lot better, but um my base my start was in grappling. So I another test to show that like my grappling is the best in this division.
What have you made of his UFC career? Because like he is such an odd like kind of run where like he was like 3 or 4-0 in the UFC. He gets brought in because he's Whitaker's teammate, gets knocked out in like 10 seconds to Phil Hawes. Everyone just kind of assumes, oh, this guy's not very good. He only got brought in by Whitaker. Then he pulls off some good wins. Like he lost to Brendan Allen, but that fight was really close. His last fight, obviously, a lot of weird stuff. Like, what have you kind of made of his run? Because like although he's 3-3, like he really that last fight was an odd one. Like he almost beat Brendan Allen. Like there is an argument like he could be like 5-1 like you are.
Yeah, I think like he's obviously got some skills. But I think that when you get in really early to the UFC, you have some you run into some bumps in the road that which he obviously has, and it's tough like learning on the job, especially in the UFC. You're talking about the biggest promotion in the world, like, and if you don't have that experience and you're trying to get that experience like at the highest level, you're gonna suffer some losses, and that's kind of where I see it with him.
Usually when two grapplers fight, it ends up turning into a bit of a kickboxing match. I know you like kind of going full in on the grappling, so do you expect it to hit the mat then in this fight?
For sure.
With this one, like, is there some pressure on you just like fighting so close to home, or do you think that adds like motivation? Like, because I know I've talked to some fighters, like especially Canadians, because that's where I'm from. Like when they get that call to fight in Canada, like it is a lot of pressure. You have all these people like reaching out, being like, "Oh, can I get tickets?" or "Oh, I'm gonna come see you fight." Like,
Yeah.
does that add some pressure fighting so close to home, or do you
Yeah,
think
for
you
sure.
fought at like MSG and whatnot?
Both. Yeah, both. It's added pressure, but it's also like, it's like it's a privilege. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, um, it's not every day that unless you're from Las Vegas, like it's not every day that your family and friends can come see you fight. Like that's something that I don't take for granted. So, um, it's a privilege. It's something that's special. It's not something you're going to be able to do the rest of your life. So I choose that. You know what I mean? I asked to be on the Atlantic City card. I asked to be on the New York card. I asked to be on the Boston card. All for those reasons. Like there's probably better opportunities out there,
Mhm.
but I appreciate and I value like being able to fight close to home is special.
Mhm. How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I think that he's going to be outmatched on the feet. I think that he will be forced to shoot, and then he's in my world, and I think that he's gonna get in some trouble. I don't see it going the distance. All my fights are exciting. Like I've never had a boring fight. Um, if you watch all my fights, they're all exciting. So honestly, I don't see it going the distance.
Uh, do you bring in anyone different to work with Jacob, or is it kind of the usual crew? Like, there is a lot of high level grapplers you're working with, anyways, in
Yeah,
Philly.
so I've been working with this kid Sean O'Malley. He wrestled at Drexel. Like a 90, he's like a 197 pounder, but he's been training with me every day. Not really doesn't have any fighting experience, but Division 1 wrestler and has been helping me a lot with the grappling. And yeah, he's a stud. So yeah, he's been helping me a lot.
What do you think a win here does to you? Like, obviously gets you back in the win column by like 6-1 in the UFC. Like, that is a good record. Like, you can start kind of pushing towards those rankings.
Yeah, I think that I don't think you can take much stock in the Pereira loss,
Yeah.
just because of the situation. Was, I was on the other side of the world. It was on 10 days notice. I'd cut 30 pounds. Like, it was just, I don't think it takes as much stock as if I had a full camp and I lost to Pereira.
Mhm.
So I see it as being able to grab someone, and if not in the top 15, then in the top 20 for sure. But like I said, like I want those grappler matchups. Like,
Yeah.
I want to continue to show that I'm the best grappler in this division. I love the Rodolfo Vieira matchup. I mean, that's a jiu-jitsu world champion, um, like a legend of jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I love the Bo Nickel fight. I just find it hard to believe that that's not somewhere down the line. That's got to happen at some point. So yeah, those are two matchups that really excite me.
Are you surprised? I actually thought you would get Bo Nickel after losing to Pereira, because then it's like, oh, maybe like it is, instead of being this guy undefeated in the UFC, like maybe the UFC goes, oh, like he just lost, maybe Bo can catch him like that too. And you are a respectable name. Like, I thought they were gonna give him someone higher up than Cody Brundage. Like, were you surprised by that booking? Like, were you surprised you didn't get Bo?
So I see it a little bit differently. The way I see it is his last three fights were all against guys that had no grappling. So Pickett, um,
The
Val
Valwood,
Woodburn, and what was the first one?
the one in Contender Series is that Donovan Beard guy that he's sitting
Donovan
in
Beard.
50
So
seconds.
all against guys that had no grappling. If you watch Donovan Beard's fight before the Contender Series, he fought my teammate Miles, and he really didn't have much grappling. So him fighting Brundage is the first grappler that he's faced. So to me, that shows. When they turned me down originally, I was like, oh, he doesn't want to fight anyone that has any grappling. But now he's fighting Brundage, who has a background in grappling, a background in wrestling. So that tells me that I have to be somewhere down the line.
When would you think that fight would be? Like, do you think Bo's gonna take like a couple more, like maybe next year that is, or like do you really not care when it is as long as you do get to fight him one day?
Like I said, if they wanted me to fight Adolfo, if they let me fight Adolfo next, I'd be thrilled with that. If they wanted me to fight, if they gave me Bo Nickel, I'd be obviously thrilled with that also. I mean, there's a ton of matchups in the middleweight division. But yeah, no, I'm, I don't need like I don't need that matchup. Like, I'm not in any rush. But
Yeah.
like, if he wants any legitimacy of being a contender, like, he's got to fight me, or else it's gonna be like, oh, well, why'd you turn him down so many times?
Just final thing, like what is kind of the goal then for you this year? Like fighting end of March, like you could probably squeeze in what, like 3 this year? Like what is kind of the goal?
Yeah, I would love threes. I like fighting as often as possible. That's always been my MO. Has always been fight, 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 fight. I started off in the UFC. I fought 4 times in 6 months. That was between the two fights on the Ultimate Fighter, and then my first two UFC fights were in the span of 6 months. And then I had like two in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I much prefer like keeping them close together. I like staying close to the gym. I don't like work anymore, so it's like, what else am I doing?
Yeah. Well, Andre,
I'm with these kids. Like, get me out of this house, get me in the gym.
I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
I appreciate it, brother.